11 July 2023. In this news flash, I want to talk about some of the things that's happening around NATO and the Americans with that cluster bombs of theirs. But let's start in Europe. Now listen to this. But look at that face. That's a worried man. Lithuania's call for NATO to deploy permanent military force near the Russian border. Alliance must stay strong in face of Putin's nuclear weapons threat, says President. Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda has called for the creation of a permanent NATO military bases near the borders of Russia, claiming Moscow has voided a NATO pact by placing tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Nausėda claims that in his country they are already used to nuclear threats from Russia, as they constantly hear them. Now, I actually want to laugh, because those three Baltic countries up there, they have been very vocal about the things they want NATO to do to Russia. They are the ones that insisted on NATO supplying Ukraine with nuclear weapons. They are the ones that have been destroying Russian memorials. They are the ones that has been banning the Russian language. They are the ones that are terrorizing their Russian-speaking citizens. All things like that. But they remind me a lot of that guy that you had in school that were always seeking the big guys up to hit somebody else. And then one day they try to hit that guy and he hits back and he floors them. And then all of a sudden these that were seeking on, they start running for the hills because they know they are next. And I think this is what exactly going through their minds now, seeing how things is happening in Ukraine. Forget what the media tells you. Forget what the Western media tells you. The Russians are grinding the Ukrainians up at a terrifying rate. The Russians are burning the Ukrainian weaponry, basically NATO weapons, by the heaps. We've got a problem there. The Baltics, are seeing the West is running out of weapons, running out of ammunition, and is beginning to lose their, let's say, taste for that war that they started. And then in America there's changes. Things are beginning to change in America, and the funds are going to dry up because America is in a financial tight spot. Europe is financially basically bankrupt. Their industries is done. Everything is out of control in Europe. Everything. And these little Baltics sitting there up that has been sicking Europe and NATO and America on in this are beginning to think, if all these guys are tied down to their home bases with problems, with major issues, what about us? And I have said it in many of my Skidmarks. Once Russia is finished in Ukraine, the Baltics is going to have a major problem, because then they can focus on them. So keep it in mind. These guys are beginning to panic. That's why they come with stupid statements like give Ukraine nuclear weapons. And now they're calling for permanent NATO bases. Because they think if they land into shit with Russia, America is going to run to their aid. They're making a massive mistake. And I think they're beginning to realize that. But let's see where this goes. And then we get some more insanity. Successes on the battlefield is more important than conventions. Bulgarian Prime Minister on cluster munitions transfer to Ukraine. The Convention on Cluster Munitions prohibiting their use and transfer entered into force in Bulgaria in 2011. Now you see, exactly, this is the things that the Russians have been talking about. The West cannot be trusted because the West will cancel agreements whenever it suits them. Same story here with the cluster ammunitions. But more about the cluster ammunitions. And this was tweeted by Matt Gaetz. Breaking. I will be the Republican co-sponsor on the NDAA amendment introduced by Rep. Sarah Jacobs to stop the transfer of cluster bombs. These cluster bombs will not end the war in Ukraine and will not build a more stable country. Children will be left without limbs and without parents because of these decisions, if we do not work together in a bipartisan fashion to stop it. An amendment to the defense budget for 2024 fiscal year has been introduced, which could prohibit the transfer of cluster munitions to Ukraine. Republican Matt Gaetz said he would co-sponsor it, stressing that these bombs will not put an end to the war in Ukraine. Now, I wanted to do a Skidmark on this cluster ammunitions, but then I was involved, so caught up with a lot of the other things that I've done. You've seen what I've published. The reality here is, these cluster munitions has been banned in many countries. It has been proven over and over that they kill more civilians than anything else. And the problem is, you must go and look at Cambodia. The results in Cambodia, where the Americans dropped six explosive devices for every one civilian in that country. The Chinese had done a survey when they built the high-speed rail into Cambodia, and they had to clean that route up. And according to them, it will take 1,000 years to clean Cambodia up. Now in 2023, my question is just this. What sane person will use cluster ammunitions? We have seen, and I've done Skidmarks on it, how the children are being maimed in the Donbass with that little butterfly mines that they are dropping in clusters. Now these cretins want to supply cluster bombs that will spread those things all over Ukraine. Think about that. What sane person can promote something like that? But the Biden administration is in a flat panic. And as I've said many times, whatever you do, don't panic, because if you panic, you will fuck up. And this is what they're doing now. They're fucking up. They're gonna... First it was depleted uranium. Now we're at cluster bombs. Ask yourself, how can the West claim to have the moral high ground? They are an immoral lot of mongrels. And this is what they're doing there. And if you are a European or an American taxpayer, you must be extremely concerned about this and extremely upset. But I guess you guys will take it as you've been taking a lot of nonsense for a long time, because it's happening in other countries. It's happening in areas of the world that the average American citizen cannot even point out on a map. So they're happy. It is not their country that are being sown with unexploded ammunitions. But guys, there's an old law of nature. Whatever goes up comes down. Please give me a like and subscribe and share the thing. And thank you for your support.